She was a good girl, and even though there wasn't very much in the middle of the Second World War, she tried the best that she could. This girl was going to have a big Christmas surprise for her mother and father. Her father worked down the mines, and her mother had to work and making all different kinds of things in a huge factory. So she thought that she would try and help by making something special for Christmas. She took a bowl, a huge bowl, and into that bowl, even though she'd never cooked before in all of her life, she put some flour, because she knew that that was one of the things that you could put inside of a bowl. She put some flour, she put some biscuits, she put some custard. She knew that this would be a good thing, and then she started to put in some other things, some mince, and she mixed it all up inside of the great bowl and put it inside of the oven to cook. This was going to be a very special surprise. She'd used all of the flour ration, all of their meat ration, and mixed it all up inside of the bowl, the flour, the custard, the mince, the butter, all together, and put it laying flat inside of the oven to cook. She was hoping that she would get something extra special for Christmas. She was hoping that she would get a puppet, a Mr. Punch puppet. She loved puppets. She loved to play with them. She would play with the other children and make up stories, and they would play together, and what she really wanted was to have a puppet that she could play with. When it came to Christmas time, which was only a day later, she was hoping that she would find lots of things inside of a stocking. A few things, maybe some nuts that she could crack, with a nutcracker, and she was hoping that she would get some good things for Christmas. And when she came down, she saw her presents. She saw a stocking. She saw it had one orange, an orange. She hadn't had an orange since before the war had started. She didn't know where her mother and father had got it. She didn't know if there was a ration book that gave you some stamps so that you could buy an orange. She was very excited, and she could see that she had one present. It was small, it was folded, there was something that was hard inside, and all she thought about was the wooden-headed puppet that she wanted. But when she opened it up, all she could find inside was a skipping rope. A skipping rope that wasn't made out of plastic, but it was made out of wood. Some wood that had once been spindles that her mother had used inside of the factory that made the cloth. And she looked at it, and she knew that in the middle of the Second World War there wasn't so much of anything, and she had to take whatever it was that she was given. She had wanted the puppet. She had wanted to have it so that she could play with her friends, but to have a skipping rope was a good thing indeed. She would think of some way of using it other than just to skip with it. She looked at her mother and father. She said, "Thank you very much for my great present. Thank you very much for the skipping rope." And she didn't think that she wanted to have the puppet anymore, for she could skip with the skipping rope. She could feel it in her hands, the new rope inside of it, the spindles that held the rope, and she would play with her friends, and they would make do with what they got. But she looked at her mother and father. "You've given me a surprise. I've made a surprise for you." "Is it something that you've made for us?" her father said. "Yes," said the girl. "It's a very, very special surprise. I mixed it up inside of a great bowl. I've cooked it, and now you can have some yourself." They wondered what it could possibly be. They knew that some of the flour had gone. They couldn't see the butter. "I've made for you," and here she took the tray. She'd cut it into squares. "I've made for you a very special surprise. I've made you some Christmas mincemeat. I've made it with flour, and with custard, and with butter, and with real meat mince." Her mother and father looked. "Oh, good. You've used all of those things. Well, we'll have to taste some won't we? They knew that with the war, they couldn't throw it away, so they would have to eat it, no matter what. The girl rubbed her hands together. Thank you for the skipping rope. Now I've got my treat for you. Some surprise. She'd put biscuits into it as well. It's my flour, custard, biscuit and mincemeat surprise. They took a square each. They opened their mouths and took the smallest bite you ever could, and expected it to taste terrible, and it tasted wonderful. They really liked it. They took another bite and another. Oh, this is the best we've ever had. Flour, custard, biscuit and mincemeat surprise for Christmas. When the war was over, that girl would cook with the flour, the custard, the biscuits, the mincemeat. She would mix it all up, and together they would sit, for it was their special Christmas memory. A special Christmas memory for that year and every year after, where they would eat what she had given them on that Christmas morning in the middle of the Second World War. She did get the things that she wanted, perhaps not as soon as she wanted, but she did get them. And she was always grateful for whatever she got. But the thing that they all liked, the whole of the family liked best of all, was when she cooked them the special mincemeat surprise.